On July 5th, 1937, the town of Yellowgrass, Saskatchewan recorded a pretty hot summer day. Actually, it was the hottest day in Canadian history at 45 degrees Celsius. Not only is this an impressive heat record, but it's one that not a single Canadian city has come close to beating in the last 84 years. At least until this past week.
I'm here in Lytton, BC, a town you might have heard some buzz about in the last couple days, mostly because on Sunday, June 27th, it recorded the new hottest temperature in Canadian history, only to be beaten by itself the day after, and then again today on the 29th at 49.4 degrees Celsius. This is the single hottest heat wave Canada has ever experienced. So why is it happening now?
Well, before we answer that, there's something I need to talk about first. The footage shown in this video is the last you'll see of Lytton, at least as it was. A day after filming this, nearby wildfires engulfed the town in 20 minutes, and 90% of Lytton is now ashes. A town that is home to the Inglakatma First Nations peoples who have lived on the land for over 10,000 years, and settlers since 1858. So even though I will talk about the science behind heat waves, just know that the main focus of this video is to raise money for the residents affected by this fire and to sort of bring attention to the catastrophe and even displacement caused by climate change. The official GoFundMe link is in the description of this video, and seriously, if you have some spare change, consider donating. The people there were so nice, and I honestly can't imagine what they're going through right now. A minute ago we asked ourselves a question. Why did the Pacific Northwest just experience a record-breaking heat wave? And why was a Canadian city so far north the epicenter? Well, to break this down, we first need to establish what causes a heat wave. On Earth, the sun never distributes heat evenly. Air masses are cooler at the poles because they receive less direct sunlight, and hotter at the equator because they receive more. It isn't news to anyone that Antarctica is colder than the Sahara Desert, but something you probably don't know is that a barrier forms when these hot and cold air masses meet. Thanks to the hot air rising and the cool air sinking, a pretty intense current forms at these sites called a jet stream. In North America, this current moves west to east, blocks cold air in the north, and sometimes if it's feeling wild, it bubbles, allowing hot air from the south to make its way all the way up to Canada. Just like that, boom, hotter weather in the Pacific Northwest. Still with me? Alrighty. When that jet stream bubble comes up to party, it needs a +1 to keep it there for a few days. And that +1 is a high pressure system. Just like how temperature varies across our atmosphere, so does pressure. Not what your teacher puts on you before an exam, but rather the weight of air. It's kind of hard to imagine that air has mass, but our atmosphere is actually filled with molecules stacked on top of each other for 60 miles up. This adds up pretty quickly, and at sea level, it's the equivalent of a 15-pound weight pushing down on every square inch of your body. In high-pressure systems, air molecules are pushing down on Earth with more weight. When they hit the surface, they scatter. And when that downward pushing force comes in contact with a hot air mass below, it has the ability to trap it. Meteorologists call this phenomenon a heat dome, but you call it a heat wave. So there you go. A jet stream pulling hot air north and a high pressure system trapping it is the recipe for a pretty dramatic heat wave. Any questions? Yeah, why was this one like hot? Well, right now Earth is in a global climate pattern called La Nina. It sounds complicated, but it's just a climatologist's way of saying that ocean waters in the Western Pacific are a little warmer this year. Warmer water means warmer air, and since the jet stream blows from west to east, it can bring even more hot air to North America during heat waves. When every single one of these factors align, we get a heat dome like no other. Some are even calling this a once-in-a-millennium event in the Pacific Northwest, mostly because temperature records have been shattered in every single city. The main reason Lytton, BC saw the absolute worst of this situation is because it's in a semi-arid valley, meaning that hot air masses sink, condense, and superheat at the lowest points during high-pressure systems, and there's no water vapor in the air to cool things down. And last but not least, this is all exacerbated by climate change, of course. As we trap more energy from the sun in our atmosphere by emitting greenhouse gases, the intensity, frequency, and unpredictability of these weather patterns will continue to worsen. So I can almost guarantee that this heat wave won't be a once-in-a-millennium thing for very long, but that is a chat for another video. Stay curious. I'll see you next week.